Literally, I'm not joking. He had a mouthful of pizza and he denied it.
But real innovation comes from understanding what's going on in people's lives and what matters to them.
You could say all over. Let's say all over. It sounds glamorous.
You're only as good as the pizza that you serve.
There are fine balance between the human touch and kind of what we're seeing in this subscription model, which is becoming very popular.
It's just like, so boring.
I think it means that leaders end up taking their customers for granted.
Just shows how fragile loyalty is.
We want people to give us honest feedback that then impact our decisions.
It's about making sure the tech we use has humanity built within it.
I think it's 52% of consumers have higher expectations now with going through the cost of living crisis.
I think there's a need to really simplify because we've got so much choice.
He's definitely just had allergen training. Remember
The success happens is when that's carefully considered and thought.
People's pockets aren't as deep anymore.
We're all off to order a pizza by electric bike. Hi everyone, welcome to a very special edition of the Tech and Toast podcast, brought to you with our partner Zonal. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking into loyalty and how it's affecting the industry. For this first episode, we're going to look into consumer behaviour. We're going to be looking into how our guests decide where to spend, what to eat, and whether they keep coming back or not. Joining us today, we have John Sills, author of The Human Experience, Ruth Carpenter, head of marketing at Pizza Pilgrims, Gillian Nicholson, sales director at Zonal, and me, Chris. I'm your host for the day. We'll be talking about the return to city centre dining, the role of tech and guest experience, and what actually builds loyalty today. So let's get on with it. Let's meet the guests. All right, and we shall meet our guest today, and John Sills. Hello, John. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Tell us a little bit about you, John. How have you ended up here today with us?
It's a very good question. My day job is managing partner at the foundation. So we're a growth consultancy that works with organisations of all shapes and sizes to grow in a customer-led way. And I think I'm probably specifically here because a couple of years ago I wrote a book called The Human Experience that was all about how loyalty was a myth and humanity was what mattered in customer experience. So I think that's led to me being on a podcast talking about technology and whether loyalty really is something or not.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. And Ruth, I've met you before on the podcast, but who are you and what do you do?
I'm Ruth, and I've been at Pizza Pilgrims for the last 3.5 years, but with over 12 years experience working in restaurants like Dishoom and Curb. And I've always been of the stance of always putting the customer first and how we can build that loyalty organically, as well as through marketing tools.
Perfect. And you have a lovely dog who's not here today, who's causing you some chaos, but we'll get into that later, I'm sure. And Gillian, lovely to meet you. What do you do and where are you from?
Gillian Nicholson. I am sales director at Zonal. So I'm responsible for a sales team, and we sell into hospitality. We've been in the business for over 45 years. And we serve customers from single sites, independent pubs, all the way up to large multi-chain organisations.
Yeah, you guys have been around the block in the nicest sense of the word, haven't you?
Yes, we do. Everybody
knows Zonal. So let's start with you, John. It's something you talked about, I think, in the book, from the outside in. Is that am I starting here? Yeah, and as Ruth just mentioned there, starting with the customer. You talk about seeing the world from the outside in, but what does that mean in context of hospitality, do you think? And why do you think it's especially relevant today in this kind of in where we are with the industry today?
Yeah, I mean, I think hospitality obviously has had a rough few years and trying to get back to growth and growing in a good way. And our belief is that the way to grow is by putting the customer at the heart of your business, because you only really make money by customers choosing to buy from you and use you. So it makes sense to put customers at the heart. But naturally, like every other industry, you end up seeing the world from the inside out. You become closer to your competitors, closer to the products that you offer or the services that you offer, closer to any kind of industry pressures that there are. And it means even though you know your customers are kind of really big and really important, they end up kind of getting lost in the day-to-day of running a business. And so it's really important to try and step outside of that. We sometimes describe it as like this wedge shape. If you imagine your customer's life as like this wedge, and one end, at the thick end of the wedge, they've got all the things that really matter to them, like their friends, family, hopes, dreams, ambitions, the things they're trying to achieve, the things that get in the way, the services they use to help. And right at the very thin end of the wedge is, one of your restaurants, maybe you and your restaurants. It's a really, really tiny part of their overall life and their overall consciousness. Even if they really like you, they don't want to be thinking about you all the time. And unfortunately, the way of dealing with this at the moment in organisations is to send out loads of feedback surveys. But all those feedback surveys do is ask questions about the thin end of the wedge. What do you think about us? What do you think about our product? What do you think about our service? Would you recommend us? But real innovation comes from understanding what's going on in people's lives and what matters to them, and then finding ways to be useful in that. So I think it's more important than ever for organisations in hospitality to focus on that now, because that's going to be the way to get back to growth, I think.
What a great way to explain it, the thick and thin end of the wedge. I feel like I spend my life at the thick end of the edge. and Ruth, at Pizza Pilgrims, you just mentioned this at the start, and I know you guys quite well, and I think that you guys do try to look at the customer first. Have you got any recent examples, I suppose, of how you guys have used that scenario, I suppose, to apply to what you do every day.
Yeah, actually, like really relevant to what you've just said. We're using a tool called a test, which is a blanket customer survey tool to really get to grips of what our customers want. How we approach that is we'll never say, hey, we're Pizza Pilgrims, what do you think of our menu? We'll say, if you're going to dine at a pizza restaurant, what would your expectations be? How can we exceed your expectations? What do you expect? If we were to put a beer on our menu as a blanket brand, what kind of brands would you like to see, and what serves, and what makes a pint like worth £7 to you?
Nothing.
Nothing. We all cry. And really get an understanding, but we'll never say we're Pizza Pilgrims. Do you like us better than Rudy's, Frankenblanca, etc.? Because we want people to give us honest feedback that then impact our decisions. And I can't tell you who it is, but we are actually moving to a new beer partner. And that will be being set up in September, but that was very much dictated by those surveys and really listening to what the customers expect, and then building a project plan around how we exceed their expectations with everything that we do with that chosen partner. So we found it really invaluable, and we are seeing the return of customers wanting to come back, and our frequency of visit has actually increased.
And you actively encourage it, don't you, as a brand as well, outside the marketing side? If you look at you guys on social media or wherever you see you, or even being in the sites, you feel that kind of engagement that actually you're encouraged to engage, whether you like it or not.
Many a times we've asked social media what kind of serve glass they want their Negronis in, or what pizza should be on our guest pizza roster for that month. So we feel like the reason why Pizza Pilgrims keeps delivering is because we really do make sure that we understand who our customer is, and build that genuine connection with their lives.
Love it. And Gillian, you've travelled, can I say all around the UK with Zonal? Is that the right to say, or just in Scotland? Well, you're down here now, right?
Yeah, live in the south, so yeah, you could say all over. Let's say all over. It sounds glamorous.
Well, there you go, the well-travelled Gillian. And you must see that actually, because Zonal's got quite a vast customer base, you must see examples of how people are using technology, I suppose, to drive insight or to drive more data, like Ruth's talking about and John alludes to. So they're actually getting into that kind of unique point of being able to understand their customer better.
Yeah, and I think obviously Zonal's been in the hospitality industry for over 45 years, and it's something that we're passionate about. Like you say, Ruth, understanding the technology landscape, the landscape that we are serving, rather than specific customers. Mm-hmm. So I think we do a lot of research at Zonal, and actually things that we're learning about the consumer changes that we're seeing is, for example, bookings times are moving earlier and earlier. So I think our recent report said 6:12 is the new 8 p.m.
Wow.
I think and more people are going out earlier, and that's for a variety of different reasons, but I think there's ways that we can understand what changes are happening, and I think for us then we can then garner those insights and tailor our technology platform.
I find that fascinating as well, like the shift in behaviour around when you might dine out, because you immediately think at the thick end again, thinking about me, thinking about how I behave and and where I would go. And are you seeing that kind of, probably not specifically that data, but are you seeing a shift in the way consumers, this is to everyone I suppose, how consumers are changing? Because it's tough out there, right? You mentioned at the start, John, that there's a really hard environment. It has been since 2020, right? It's been very difficult. Are you seeing that shift in change compared to where you were at Dishoom and earlier, Ruth?
100%. I think that what we're really seeing is that people's pockets aren't as deep anymore, and that's really like impacting their behaviours when ordering. So we're seeing that we're selling way less pizza than we ever have done before. But people are then over-indexing inside salads, like healthier, lighter choices to go alongside their pizza. And that's caused a huge impact in our sales, obviously.
Yeah.
We've had to come up with very creative ways of how to still create the spend per head that we need to keep our restaurants running, our teams well paid, do all the amazing things that we do for our team, but still make it good value for the customer, and that's been a tricky balance, but we are seeing that people are dining out earlier, less late night, and definitely less booze.
That's just me, I think. You just explain the booze bit. No, that's a lie.
Chris, can I just say, because I think that's a really interesting example of when I talk about trying to get up to the thick end of the wedge, it's slightly different from asking your customers what do they want and then reacting to that, because that's a great example of understanding the changes we're seeing more broadly in society, whether that's consumers changing their behaviour or whether you've just got a whole load of new consumers coming in, which is two separate things. But understanding if people are moving more towards being more health conscious, for example, if people are moving, and that means they're going to a gym and so they want to go earlier or they want to eat later or they want to have earlier nights, they want to have better sleep. These are all things like someone's sleep pattern shouldn't really affect, or you wouldn't think that really affects their relationship with a restaurant necessarily, but of course it affects it hugely. So the more you're getting people like Brian Johnson, for example, who's the guy that's trying to live forever, on Instagram talking about, you know, sleep is the most important thing in your life and you've got to get to bed by 10 o'clock every night, the knock-on impact to that is people coming into restaurants earlier, and that's where if you understand what's going on in people's lives, you can then start to predict that behaviour and get ahead of it. Rather than just saying to people, would you want earlier sittings? And that takes you a while to catch up with customers then if you do that. So that's the kind of
I guess that explains the demise of nightclubs and, you know, where that, not just the sleep thing, but obviously that behaviour has shifted right around from where people are using the late night, the third day part I used to call it when I was in the industry, is slowly depleting. Do you see the same in terms of like the economic state we're in, Gillian? Are you seeing any changes in, you just mentioned more in terms of that data you've got, but are you seeing any other changes across the board in terms of how people are using the industry or how technology is being used?
I mean, I think everyone wants more data, wants more insight, but I think it's about understanding what the purpose is that you want it for and what you're trying to utilise. I think it can be everyone wants to do it very blanket approach, but I think you need to tie that to kind of tight goals and objectives to make sure that you get the most out of it, and also that what you're going to do and what you're launching aligns with your brand. And I think that's kind of where we've seen with a lot of our customers, that really is where the success happens, is when that's carefully considered and thought. Obviously the data and the volume of data that our kind of point of sale system and then our other platforms can garner is huge, but you need to be able to, I guess, interpret that in the right way and serve it appropriately when you're thinking about creating loyalty schemes or what you want to get out of it.
It's a great segue actually, because Pizza in the Post, which we were all obsessed with in the pandemic, it's still going, right? Still going. And I think that balance between, I'll come to you after this, John, the balance between, I suppose, subscription model and that kind of need to be connected to your brand versus the human touch. How's it developed, I suppose, for you? Has it changed from where it started when you first started Pizza in the Post? Has it developed into something new?
Massively evolved, I'd say. I don't think it's reinvented itself. It hasn't needed to. But it's definitely, when we launched Pizza in the Post, it was very much a very reactive way to save our business at a time where restaurants were having to close. And we had all the right tools. It was actually our founder James's crazy idea that he tried to launch 2 years earlier, and it absolutely flopped. And he was like, one day we'll need this, and he was right. So we could very quickly pivot and get creative within our COVID restrictions that we were all living under. And it became this amazing thing. What we've managed to do is really like double down on what the customer experience needs to be in our pizzerias versus what people want as an experience at home. And the nuances between who those different customers are, and really understanding how we have one holistic brand voice and style that will always be protected no matter what. But we need to talk to those customers extremely differently. And so I'd say it was a lot slicker. It looks a lot more beautiful, and it's very much like a more planet friendly now than it was when we first launched. But it's very much like the premise had to stay the same, but the character and the sales tactics did have to shift slightly.
And John, is there a thin dot, I'm not using your wedge anymore, a thin dotted line between how consumers are behaving and I suppose not craving that human touch, as Ruth alluded to before, actually, when you've got someone in a restaurant, maybe they're not coming as often, but they're spending a little bit more because they want to kind of be a bit more lavish when they're in there. Is there a link between, is there a fine balance between the human touch and kind of what we're seeing in this subscription model, which is becoming very popular?
Yeah, there is. I've just got to say, I did the Pizza in the Post during COVID, and it was
every time we do this.
These
guys, they're marketing geniuses.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds. It's one of my most disappointing moments in COVID. Nothing that you did wrong, but I was so excited about it, and friends had recommended it. And me and my wife were going to do a date night, and then I burnt it. I burnt the pizza.
It's so easy to do.
Completely my fault. I was like, and I was so disappointed because I burnt. Anyway, it's just really triggered me.
Actually, on that,
we should do a campaign around every burnt pizza you get another box
free. Same for me. I got one. I think Gavin, who's the MD, was sending one to me as a like try it out type thing, and my neighbour stole it. So it got left outside my house.
Yeah.
And they took the box. So are you writing that one down, Ruth?
How close to your neighbours are you?
Yeah.
You complain
I'm not round. I'm not round. And literally, I'm not joking. He had a mouthful of pizza and he denied it.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Delivered.
So yeah, just so you know, pizza in the post has caused loads of trouble. Anyway, carry on.
Wasn't what you asked me. It was quite an emotional moment for me. So I think this is really interesting. This relationship between the digital and the subscription services and the human touch. I mean, we'll talk about this a bit more later potentially, but I think when you talk about loyalty, which is one of the subjects I tend to talk on, I don't really believe loyalty exists. I don't really believe customer loyalty exists, because I think we often equate what we think is loyalty to usefulness. And it sounds really obvious to say, but it's easily forgotten that your job as a company is to stay more useful to your customers than the competitors and the alternatives. And as soon as someone else comes along and is more useful than you, they'll go elsewhere. And that usefulness could be price, it could be the quality of the product, it could be availability, it could be socially. I mean, you look at Tesla, they've become a lot more useful recently.
Yeah.
The cars haven't changed, but they're less useful to people now because they don't signify what people want them to signify anymore about them. So it's a very, very fragile thing. And so, when we have some of these subscription models and this technology that exists to help build some of this kind of loyalty in inverted commas, it's another way of being useful. It's another way of creating usefulness for people. But you can't rely on that. The reason I kind of push against the word loyalty is because I think it means that leaders end up taking their customers for granted. They end up believing and presuming their customers are loyal because that's the language they use internally. Yep. They convince themselves they are. And that's really dangerous because you focus on winning customers and then you stop trying to impress them. So we need to get this relationship exactly right, because where people are loyal is with people, friends, family, football teams, communities. I'm an Arsenal fan. Nothing's ever going to change that. However bad they end
John's
up
just been
getting
kicked from the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I'd get out of there early.
Just on that point, so some of our research stats as well. I think 31% of consumers are very or somewhat likely to switch to a competitor, venue or brand, and I think that it just shows how fragile loyalty is. And it can be volatile, but I mean, just on the human touch in our element, we did a brand campaign a few years ago about "We're Here for You" and talking about I guess the technology impact, and for us we should be blending into the background, and we did a whole lot where there was a whole host of the board and members of our team got painted, and that's the whole purpose, is our tech shouldn't stand out front and foremost. It's about the venue, it's about the servers, it's about that experience. We should be in the background but given the right information to the right time with ease and simplicity to really help just improve that experience.
I was going to say, because keeping it human, as we were just talking about there, in a tech term, it's difficult, right? Because you have to build most of the time there's a physical, like there's a POS, there's a product to touch, or there's a handheld to hold at the table, whatever it might be. But how hard is that then when you're building technology to make sure that you actually achieve that? Because without becoming part of the problem, because the journey needs to be seamless for the user, both on the Pizza Pilgrim server and also on the customer end.
I think it's about continually getting creative and innovating as to what it looks like. Yes, there may always be an element of physical hardware there, whether that looks like a kiosk, a POS, a tablet, a phone. Obviously size and format changes, but again, for us it's about making sure that the journey for the server or the staff is as easy as it can be, and how can we improve that, how can we make it quicker, how can we give them what they need about a consumer, or serve the right choices, or check the right allergens, or be able to know actually the kitchen is maxed right now, so we need to turn off any kind of incoming delivery orders. Or so again, it's just all about walking through that experience with our customers and really listening to our customers. And I think that's something that we I wouldn't say, maybe not say that we have loyal customers, because we don't believe there's loyalty, but we have very long-standing customers, and I think that's one of the things we're really proud of at Zonal is, and we listen to what everyone's pain point is.
But in John's terms, maybe you're useful to them, right?
Well, I think useful, and also I think there's an interesting separation here between human and humanity. So obviously, because I wrote a book called The Human Experience, everyone presumes that all I'm caring about is just humans and we have to get back to kind of human service, and it's not that. But it's about making sure the tech we use has humanity built within it. That could be as simple as the language that you use, the way things are described, you know, that's as true as it on a menu as it is in anything else. Like, are you just writing and speaking in a way that people understand? And Pizza Pilgrims do this really, really well. But also just thinking about your end customer and the situation they're going to be in. I about 3 years ago, I went to Bill's in, I think it was in Brighton, 3 years ago, and we had there was like 12 of us. It was like cousins, everyone was there. Had this big lunch, food was great, you know, took a couple of hours. And at the end, they brought over a little kind of feedback tablet for me, like a phone, could you give us feedback? And they wanted me to go through every single item that we'd ordered and rate it. And that just shows a complete lack of humanity, because that was about, you know,
he's on the podcast tomorrow, the MD.
Oh, yeah. You can ask him about it. Yeah,
I know what tech service that is.
I know exactly who that is. Yeah. No, but I think that's a really great example, isn't it, of not understanding or of where emotionally you're at the end of a meal.
That's it.
Because at the end of a meal, you want to go, right? I mean, you want to pay and go. And,
it's the worst part of the meal.
Yeah, it is really. It's the bit where it's over.
Yeah. But you know what? Even not to labour the point, but even if they changed, they just said, just tell us what the best and the worst dish was you had.
Yeah.
Even that will be better, because that understands at least some of that humanity rather than just list and rank everything. So it's exactly that. It's understanding the humanity, the emotional situation someone's in.
Simplicity.
The simplicity.
And I think payments have gone that journey, all right? I'm going off script a little bit, but payments have gone that journey in terms of the way we pay at the end of a meal. Everyone hates to queue, hates to pay, hates to order, hates to wait. And I think payments now are so, or can be, if you buy the right tech, seamless in terms of checking out when you're finished. You know, you can do it in Amazon, you can do it in retail. Hospitality's getting there now where you can kind of check out really quick on your own without any humans. And I think that understanding what everyone's done with payments will hopefully spread across the other piece of tech we have. And John, while I've got you, you wrote something in your book about revenue only comes from decisions made in your favour.
Yeah.
What are the biggest what do you think are the biggest drivers of those decisions in today, I suppose, in this climate we're in?
It's a really hard question to answer.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good, and I'm not going to answer it. No, it's really
okay. Good night.
It's a really hard question to answer, because for me the biggest things in hospitality is really understanding those different segments, those different groups of people that are going to want different things. And that's why, you know, going back to that original point, it's so important to understand what matters to your customers, because you have to understand the drivers of the decisions of the particular customer types you're trying to attract. Because that's going to look different to my kids than it is to me, than it is to my mum. Like, I go to Pizza Express still with my kids, not because I think it's the best pizza, but because I know within 2 minutes they're going to have dough balls and carrot sticks in front of them, because Pizza Express are really good at getting food in front of my kids. So for them, that's really important. But, you know, 5 hours later, if I'm going out with friends, or, you know, the next day if I'm taking a client out for dinner, my whole decision-making framework is entirely different. It could be about novelty, it could be about certainty. If I'm taking a client out, I want to know the service and the food is going to be really good. You know, if I'm going out with friends, you might want novelty, you might want something different. Now, of course, to your point earlier, you know, Ruth, as wallets get tighter, different things kind of ladder up and ladder down, but still it's about understanding what really matters to people, and then understanding what they're comparing you to, understanding those alternatives, because they're not just comparing you to, I mean, you all know the M&S 2 dine in for £10 thing, which we worked with them on many years ago, and you know, the insight from that was that people weren't comparing the ready meal at M&S with the ready meal at Tesco. They're comparing the ready meal at M&S with eating out, eating at home, not eating, cooking for themselves, etc., etc. You're very familiar with this. So it's a more nuanced answer, I think, because you have to start by understanding who you're for, then understanding the context they're going to be in, then understanding what's driving the decision. Because the same person could have two different drivers.
I still think you answered it. It was good enough.
Was it? Okay. I felt I needed to.
And now I'm looking at the rest of my questions. I don't want to say the word loyalty anymore because you scared me.
That's why I like to put it in early.
So I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Ruth, in Pizza Pilgrims then, when you're looking at these customers and the decision making they're making, how are you driving, I'm going to say usefulness, oh God, and loyalty, not that again. How are you driving loyalty, I suppose, or how are you attempting to bring these people back again?
I think for us, we know we're not the cheapest in the pizza market, and we've become very comfortable with that. I think what we really try and deliver is an exceptional experience with good warm service, and the food has to be the star of the show.
Yeah.
So we always say it internally that we take everything seriously, but we take pizza very we take nothing seriously but the pizza.
Yeah.
Sorry. And by that we mean that we want every touch point that the customer has to be full of joy, that everything that they engage with should, of made it a memorable experience. But that pizza has to be the best pizza, because you're only as good as the pizza that you serve.
Yeah.
In the sense that if they have one bad experience, they're not coming back. People are fickle.
Yeah.
So we can't rest on our laurels, but we also have to look at the 360 experience to warrant the cost. Because we work really hard on securing the finest ingredients from Italy, from training our teams, from paying them more than most hospitality brands pay their team. We're a B Corp. That really means something to us. Like, we invest a lot of money into things that matter to us as a brand. They may not mean anything to the customer, but we need to fund it somehow, so we have to make the customer see the value in our brand.
Yeah, and I think that simplicity in hospitality sometimes, the joy you called it, is so easy to do but so easily forgotten sometimes. It's not easy, I'm not belittling people being good at service, but I think that's what hospitality is, right? Just making sure people have a great time. It's very rare you say, oh, I'm going back there because we had a really good time. It's normally the food was great or something like that, and because people just take it as a given that you should have a good time when you go to a restaurant. So I think that actually doing that consistently and doing it well is very hard. And I think from I've seen some trends recently that have shown us across different parts of the country how experience is considered differently, like you're saying. So people have different opinions in different areas around different day parts about why they want to dine. And while I'm on data, Gillian, do you have some trends? Hopefully you're going to you look at me that you might have.
No, we do.
Because you've got how many venues do you have? Do you know in total in Zonal?
Customers, we have over 17,000 customers.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Okay. And what kind of features are I suppose, what kind of experiences are driving them to come back? I suppose what is seeing people return?
Well, I think in relation to, I guess, trends and what people are looking for, different things, there's been quite a lot. So I think you spoke about it, kind of people searching for the experiences, whether it's like going out for tasting menus, competitive socialising elements are really up, bottomless brunches, which I'm a particular fan of. I think there's a lot of different kind of trends out there as to what is being offered and what's making people go out and come back to some of the venues.
Yeah, and I think my missus, we're in a WhatsApp group, and someone said, we're going for Christmas dinner again at the Celtic Manor, which just sounds grand, right, in a big ballroom. But we've done it every year for the past 4 years, and I think everyone in the group said, can we just do something a bit more interesting? A bit like, because Kerry just went to a garage night bottomless brunch or something, which was, I think, a different experience entirely. But I think people are looking for that because the money's so scarce or so important now, more important than it was, that people are looking for that. And I'm going to flip back into B Corp quickly with you, Ruth, because I held a panel about a year ago about purpose in restaurants. Does it matter? Do people care? And it sounds really brutal because you've just invested a lot of time and money into B Corp. But you allude to a little bit then, are you seeing a difference in how customers engage with the brand because you're now B Corp? Do people bring it up? And I'm sure not everyone does, but is there a wider kind of awareness of it?
I think the reality is probably about 5% of our customers
really
like care. It's a very small portion, but for us that doesn't mean something per se to us, because becoming a B Corp was never about trying to win loyalty or to win customers. It was about creating a framework that protected the brand to make the right decisions, the communities we move into, and most importantly our team. So I think we became a B Corp not to impress customers. We did it to keep ourselves accountable and on track, to make sure that our purpose was at the forefront of all of our decision making. And I think that governance piece has been invaluable to us. We've seen team retention go up dramatically. We are attracting the right people that want to work for us from a young age, because actually surprisingly 18 to 24-year-olds want to work for B Corp companies. Yeah. So I think we'll see a shift in that behaviour and that need for brands to be B Corps or doing something with purpose will rise over the next 5 to 10 years. But I think for now it's about keeping our brand accountable.
And I think it's really important. The reason you did it wasn't it was because it's the right thing to do. When your mind is the right thing to do, which is the right way to do. And John, do you see ethics playing a big role in, I suppose, what people are spending? Because I'm trying to work out, if I can be really honest, if I would say I wouldn't dine at Gillian's restaurant because she wasn't sustainable, or
I don't. I mean,
sounds great.
Just to say, I thought it was a brilliant answer. It's really refreshing to hear, because it's exactly right. I think organisations have forgotten that their role is to have a strong role in society, a positive role in society, regardless of if it's going to make you more money or not. So it's so refreshing to hear. It's also helpful to hear because I don't think customers are really making choices based on ethics necessarily. It's quite far down the list, but a more helpful way of me explaining that, if you think about how customers make decisions, they often make them in order, 3 different levels. The first is reasons to avoid a place. So they might not go there because there's been a really good ethical organisation, but they might avoid it if they've been involved in a scandal. Yeah. So reasons to avoid, then reasons to choose, and that might be because you have incredible pizzas and wonderful staff and great environments. But then reasons to stay. And reasons to stay are often the type of things a little bit more ethical that reinforce your worldview. So you probably wouldn't ever choose Pizza Pilgrims because it's a B Corp. You wouldn't avoid it because it wasn't one. But if you use it often and you really like it, the fact it is, if that is something that means something to you, will just make you like it a bit more, and might just make you a little bit more sticky. So I think that's the right way to.
I suppose it makes them an advocate as well, right? So if you're already a fan, so if you're already happy to go there every week and you're an advocate, maybe that just increases that. Like iceberg theory, when people complain, it spreads around. And maybe the opposite factor happens, that actually, I love them so much now, I love them even more. I'm going to tell more people. It's just that kind of.
That's it. It's just another positive. If you're doing it for the right reasons, as Ruth and the team are, then it's just another positive reason to want to kind of engage with the brand. And also, it's just good because I think consumers overall are fed up, when you're particularly looking at things like climate change, for example, are fed up of being told it's their responsibility to do something about it, rather than businesses taking it on as their responsibility, and then consumers don't have to. The other day I ordered something, and I can't remember which delivery brand now, probably good in case I get it wrong and you get sued.
Nothing new.
It was something like you can pay £5 to have it delivered, or you can pay £7 to have it delivered in an electric vehicle. And I won't swear on the podcast, but I was like, that is you deliver it with an electric vehicle and work out your business model, so I don't have to pay more to do the right thing.
And make me feel bad by
not doing it. So so I think it's thinking about those decisions at those different levels helps to work out where those things.
We're all off to order a pizza by electric bike. And Gillian, in terms of I suppose not just the Zonal customer, but people generally investing in technology, are people starting to put money behind sustainability? And maybe I'm trying to think, what kind of features could you have, I suppose, that would really track what people are doing?
I think there's a lot in relation to, we're working with a lot of partners that are featured in sustainability and planting trees and things like that, and I think it's becoming more and more, but obviously people are very price sensitive, and I think the expectations that people have, it's I guess the primary focus is servicing whatever needs that they're trying to fulfill with that technology project, and if there is an element that they can feed into that. A lot of our sales processes that we go through now, whether it's tender documentations and things like that, those questions are in there. They're coming up more and more often. Not every time, but it is certainly becoming more prominent, and that we're seeing it, and our customers are looking for that.
Yeah, I saw a guy who's launching a thing called Marker, which is like, how you have your 5-star food rating for in Wales anyway, we have it everywhere, right? Where you walk in, you see the 5 stars, so you know if they're, or is it 5 circles, I'm not sure, where you know if they're clean or not. And he's done the same sustainability there from Newcastle. They've started this thing where they are literally doing that. When you go around the venues, they're having 2-star, and they can't get off the ground. So everyone loves it, everyone wants to do it, but the reality is, as you said, it's further down the list. So it's a bit disappointing. And on disappointment, consumer surprise. Is there a moment, I suppose, where consumer behaviour is particularly surprised? This is to all of you. Has particularly surprised you? So we talked a little bit about that. I'm surprised by I get it, the dining out earlier. That it's a shock to see it's happening. I understand why. Is there anything else that you've got that you know about in terms of any kind of stat or anything that's helped you think, oh my God, that's different. I did not think that would happen. If you haven't, don't worry.
Yeah, because I actually think I went totally down a different path on this question, and I was thinking more about me as a consumer and my.
Yeah, but it's fine. Yeah, well, I think.
So I guess from a flip side, in technology, servicing it and giving the information and using technology. I was in Lisbon with friends, and we booked a table. So we were Europeans, we eat earlier than Europeans do, and we booked this table, party of 8, 7 o'clock, and we bounced up, and my friend booked it under both our maiden name and our married name, and the front of house server came out and asked the question if we'd booked it, and she was like, no, and then we realised we did, and obviously we were mortified, but it was the server's attitude towards us, because yes, the restaurant was very quiet at 7 p.m. and we're the only ones there. But yeah, it was, I guess, her attitude towards us. It was really, we then felt really uncomfortable. And actually, I've got a few friends that are now going to Lisbon, and we had a lovely time. The food was excellent. But that's not somewhere I would now recommend, because I just feel like that experience really tainted it for me. She made my friend feel really awful. And actually we were trying to do a good thing by planning ahead. We had it booked. And so sorry.
I find it, and having been in the industry for years, I find that first welcome you have you booked. Before you even step across the threshold, you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
I might not have. Can I just say hello first? I find it a very odd anti-commercial thing to do.
I had one the other day. I was just meeting a friend, I won't name the restaurant, but one of the restaurants in Canary Wharf, and we sat down and the waiter just came over and quite loudly just went, "Have you got any allergies?" and my friend just went, "Afternoon, how are you?" And he was
That's
like,
when the training's really working.
Okay, like, the first words he said to us, I was like, "Oh God, okay."
He's definitely just had allergen training. Remember to ask.
Oh dear. What about you, Ruth?
I think mine's like subscription models being like shocked me how it's like become such a thing. Like, I don't know if it's just me, got ADHD, like I love range of choice. You've got 28
subscriptions.
Yeah, no, I hate subscriptions because you get locked into something and it's like every month the same product comes to you and it's just like so boring.
I think people have learned that actually commercially, obviously, people get sticky really quick in those things, and not because they're useful actually, or not because they're loyal, because they forget. Gym memberships are a really good example of people being shamed into staying in a 12 or 24 month contract because you don't want to go down there and cancel. I don't know if it's still like that now. I used to run gyms, I was one of those people. But yeah, I agree. I think subscription is genius and evil.
Yeah,
the same concept.
Just like the monotony of it. It's like you're getting the same deodorant delivered every month. You're getting the same products on your, like, even if you like get your shopping delivered at home, it's the same products they recommend to you. It's just becoming very much like,
you're not getting the surprise and delight.
Exactly. And I like to try new things. So I feel like there needs to be another subscription model where you just get a random box of shit and you're like, oh, what is that? Like, give me something new.
We'll make that happen. I'll work that out. And I think, John, have you seen the same, if we put a scientific hat on it, I suppose, are we leaning more that way? It's just to think because of the nature of tech and Amazon, all the other stuff that's come on board over the last 10 years, do you think that that's why we're going there? Is it because we're almost being forced there, or is it a human nature thing?
Well, it's a bit of both. I mean, it has to be available as an option for people to use it. So the fact that they're far more available now than before makes a big difference. I think there's a great thing, well, awful thing, but called the paradox of choice that many of you will know about. A book written by a guy called Barry Schwartz, maybe 20 years ago now, and talks about the balance of where choice is good and bad. And there's a famous study in there, the jam study, and the table, they put out a table with lots of different jams on, and the table that had 23 jams on got a lot more attention, but the table that had 6 jams on sold a lot more. Because you just get cognitive overload. Same thing if you go to a train station, you try and buy a train ticket, you just get cognitive overload of trying to pick the right one. So I think now when you look across all different parts of life, if you look across, just trying to watch TV, you need, Disney and Netflix and Sky and all these different things. Apple, the amount of services Apple do. So I think there's a need to really simplify because we've got so much choice. That's the downside of so much digital technology. The downside of having a phone that can have unlimited apps and unlimited services on. The number of parking apps you have, etc., the number of food delivery apps, the number of restaurant apps we were talking about before that you might have now. So I think there's a real kind of overload, a cognitive overload coming onto people at the moment, and that's before you get to social media. I mean, you talked actually about people wanting to try new things. One of the reasons people want to try new things is because they're constantly shown all the new things they should be trying, and made to feel bad about not trying all of those new things, and you haven't got something to talk about with your friends. So all of this comes together in quite a weight on people's shoulders, quite a weight on people's brains, I think, and subscriptions then suggest a simple way through that. But I do think, to Ruth's point, there's a tipping point of that where you end up with loads of subscriptions you forget about and you feel bad about those, or you end up kind of thinking, well, I've had the same thing for so long now and I want to try something new. So it's a very kind of fine balance to be made between not just relying on that and resting on your laurels with it, but giving customers a sense of simplicity to help them make decisions every day, really.
And there's a lot of it, as you mentioned, right? And obviously, it's never been more personalised in most cases. Like people are doing a really good job. I think the tech guys are really supporting the operators to help personalise that journey. You've got pre-ordering, click and collect, at table, off table, on premise, off premise, drive through. I mean, there's a lot, right? And I think I don't know what's really, and it's probably a different answer for, I suppose, for a different set of use cases. But I'll start with you, Ruth. What do you think is really kind of people are overhyping? I know you said subscription, but what, and I think you mentioned this before. What really is moving the needle in terms of bringing people back or driving? I hate to use the word John, loyalty. I feel like I should put 50p in the jar every time I say that now.
I feel like pay at table is actually driving a better customer experience. Like we said earlier, like paying the bill is the worst part of every meal. So let's make it as seamless and as painless as possible. Still not quite as bought into order and pay at table, which is sorry to say that. I just think it removes that human element of going to a pizzeria that I personally struggle with understanding. I think what's overhyped is I think people put a lot of pressure on personalisation of content, and actually, like, if your brand messaging remains strong and you do understand your customer well, then personalisation is 8 different steps of creating one email that you could have saved if you actually knew who your customer was. And I think that people are overhyping personalisation and customisation. I know that's very much against what everyone else is saying, but it is causing more and more stress and workload in marketing teams, and it doesn't have to be that overcomplicated.
Oh, it's interesting to see. I mean, if you talk to Vic Searle, who runs a company called DataHawk, she'll talk about ROI around those kind of email campaigns and stuff. I do think it's interesting to see actually all this effort on personalisation, customization. Do you get the return that you'd expect from a blasting out an email to 40,000 people? Apparently not, but it'd be good to know. What do you think, Gillian? Because I think that because you're on the tech side, right, and you're looking at, obviously you're building products constantly or iterating your products constantly, and do you kind of look at it sometimes look at your customers thinking, God, they're really concentrating on these certain things, but actually this is the one thing that we always hear about that is winning for them or doing well for them?
Sorry, can I just touch on your point about, I guess, the knowing your customers, because we also own Airship and Toggle, and I think we've got Dan coming on one of the podcasts
That's going to be a fun episode.
But actually he was talking about that and the fact that from a CRM perspective, and we're sending out kind of 20 million customers each week or 20 million emails each week. We want to get down to a point where it's a very small proportion of that, and that is about actually knowing that a vast majority of that base is dormant. And that's the point where you need to know who is actually clicking through and opening, engaging with the brand to then get that value back.
Well, that's a key point, isn't it? We just said then actually to the question I asked, that engagement part is actually more important and probably not hyped up enough compared to, because often it's kind of like vanity numbers, like I've got a database of 50,000, we do this, we do that, but actually the reality is 1% or 2% of them really love you and are responding, and the rest don't even open your emails,
or went to your restaurant once and haven't came back. What is it you're getting back from? Are they coming back? Is it the frequency of visits, or is it getting them back in the restaurant and make sure they spend more money? It's
Same to you, John. What do you think on the overhyped?
So I think on personalisation I would really agree with this, but I think there's a nuance in it, and it's not to say that you don't want things that are right for you. It's just to say that the things that are right for you might also be right for another million people. And I think there's this real effort being put onto customers, as Ruth says, at the moment, to try and make things kind of super personalised to them. Part of the challenge with it, if I've got time to tell you a quick story, part of the challenge with it.
I've got the edit button, it's fine.
It's fine. And that was the story. So part of the challenge with it is that people don't really understand themselves. We have a version of ourselves we believe to be true, but we don't really understand it. We did some work a while ago with a company called Samworth Brothers. They're a big food manufacturer. So I think they used to do all the sandwiches for M&S and Tesco and things like that. And as part of this, we got to go and study. We were trying to look at the future of convenience food, future of ready meals. So we got to go and have dinner with people in their homes. They made us dinner, and then we went shopping with them. And I went to interview one lady. She was mid-40s, yoga instructor, a proper kind of body as a temple kind of person. Said she would never use any ready meals, never use any convenience food. And in her house, it kind of checked out. She had lots of recipe books, lots of little ingredients that I'd never heard of. Had a great dinner. And then an hour later, we went shopping in Waitrose. So we're going up and down the aisles. And we get to the ready meal aisle, and I think, well, we're going to fly down here. And she throws in a ready chopped mashed potato, and then a ready chopped carrot and ready chopped red onion. And she kind of said, I kind of gave her a funny look, and she went, well, I'm a busy person, I've not got time to peel and chop vegetables. Anyway, we carried on, and we get to the end of the supermarket where all the good stuff is, you know, the alcohol and the confectionery. And again, I think, well, we're going to fly past here because, you know, yoga, body is a temple, etc. But she swept in armfuls of Prosecco and chocolate. It was like supermarket sweep, if you remember that.
Yeah, she sounds like
just
me.
like pioneer ever.
Is it Ruth?
And and I said, well, how does that match up with your healthy lifestyle? And she said, oh, this is for girls' night on a Friday night. This doesn't count. And what I've always loved about that, a bit like your question before actually about surprising consumer behaviour, is when I'd done the interview bit with her, she wasn't lying to me. She was just telling me about the version of herself that she believes to be true. But we all have times where we take a break from being ourselves, you know, and so...
It's hard work.
Yeah, you know, it's hard work. So unless you specifically ask her that question, you're never getting that out of the interview. You only get that from observing them. And I think this is a very long way round of kind of illustrating this point about personalisation, because even if when I open up the app you say, you know, tell me the 5 things you're interested in, I'll probably say the 5 things I think I ought to be saying I'm interested in. But then, you know, if you go and look on my Twitter feed, for example, it's probably just a load of footballers, you know, missing open goals and things like that, which I'm probably not going to put on there. So you have to have this observation. You have to help people understand what really matters to them. And that's why I think the best form of personalisation is when it's done for you based on the actual behaviours you've exhibited, rather than tell us what you think is important and then we'll tell you just what you've told us. That feels very hard work and not particularly useful to get to the outcome the customer wants.
Fascinated. And finally, we always ask at the end of a podcast, what's the next big thing? It's a rule, you have to ask these questions. But in terms of behavioural shifts in consumer behaviour, I mean, God knows. I mean, where do we go? Because if you think about it, even from, I'm trying to think 2019, I think it's gone on a massive journey. The industry has anyway, just purely because we had to for a start. But then obviously tech is now getting better and better. AI is now going to drive a lot of change as well. What do you think the next shift might be? Anyone can jump in here if you want to. You got a plan here, Gillian? Has Zonal got a plan?
Well, I don't know if we've got. We do have a plan. But I
yes,
think
Zonal have got a plan.
Reference back to, I think, the change in relation to, I guess, time and going out earlier. I think is a big thing we've seen recently in the research. Obviously, the booking tables earlier, going out earlier. Only at the weekend, I was at my sister's second hen do, and we went to a daytime disco. Maybe I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But I think obviously the day parts that we saw before are changing, and I think it's certainly heartening. Kind
That's
of
a bit like I don't know if you know this, John, but most budgets and restaurant sales are based on prior year. So prior to the pandemic, it was very much not a steady prior year, but you'd pretty much know compared to last year, we'll do 3% more than we budget this year. Yeah. But actually, since 2020, I don't think there is a like for like or a prior year where we're looking at it going, oh, that was normal that year, because it just hasn't happened for so long. So I do think that's a big shift in the industry where you can't really compare apples for apples at the moment. I think it's a bit different. I mean, I'm asking myself, I'm answering my own questions now. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm meant to be the quiet one. What do you think, Ruth?
I think there's going to be huge focus on accessibility. Like, I feel like more and more customers are really crying out for menus where they don't have to hack their dietary preferences or religious
or get given 8 menus.
Or given 8 menus, so it's like, I think that people will expect products to be more readily available and menus to be more accessible to all, and there'll be a real high expectation from the customer. So I think as they want to spend less, they're going to expect more from the experiences that they are investing in. So I think we're going to see a huge shift in customer satisfaction taking a dip to then have to navigate that space. And
can't wait.
Yeah, it sounds great, doesn't it?
And one of our stats in the research actually completely echoes that. I think it's 52% of consumers have higher expectations now with going through the cost of living crisis. So it just proves it.
I think there's a bit of an, John, are you right in saying there's a bit of an impatience now with humans, as in we don't think we should wait anymore for anything?
Yeah, it's definitely this kind of age of impatience that we're in.
Yeah.
I think again it kind of probably ties into the experience you're trying to have. So, I often say, I kick back quite a lot against organisations that just say that they're one of the things they want to deliver is speed. Because it's, if you're wanting to eat food, your perception of what you want speed-wise in McDonald's is different to Michelin star. Like in Michelin star, slow down, take your time. I want to enjoy the experience. McDonald's, I want to get I want to get in and out. So I do think there is this impatience. I think the intolerance and allergen point is really interesting. One of our colleagues at work has got some intolerances, and that's been fascinating, actually, just seeing how different restaurants deal with that. The best ones that come along and say that here's the menu, I've just scribbled out what you can have, and the worst ones that bring out this massive plastic folder and go, well, sort it out for yourself and leave through, and even then it's not up to date. I think the thing I think is quite interesting, I mean, I'm, as a non-hospitality person here, I'm quite interested in this kind of slight mix of business and leisure, and the different ways people are using restaurants for different things. You know, I travel a lot for work, and I always have this like Bill Bryson-esque dream that I'm going to go into the restaurant for the evening and have some food and do a bit of work and do some writing and, you know, while the evening away. And I think I've yet to find any kind of restaurant I've gone into and opened my laptop and not felt immediately uncomfortable and immediately like I'm taking up a table and I shouldn't be there. Even last night I was in a pub and I had my laptop open, then it turned out a pub quiz was going on, and the looks I got from the rest of the pub quiz with my laptop on, people were like looking at him. Unfortunately I was on my own, and there was a team called All By Myself, so whenever they got the score, they just kept looking over. I'm like, that's not me.
Brilliant.
Partridge.
So I think there's something.
They definitely set you up with that name.
yeah, exactly. So I think there's something about that, just around the different ways people are using. Same with airports, same with restaurants, pubs. How you make different groups of people feel comfortable.
Yeah. I think the flexibility, the expectation around like Airbnb and everything now, when you want to go away for a week, you don't have to just book a hotel anymore.
That's it.
You can go in someone's house. I have to ask them obviously and pay first.
Yeah.
But you know, that ability is there. Personally, I definitely am using the marketplaces when I'm out browsing for stuff, and I think that's a big shift, and I think that will, and the generation coming up have grown up with the iPhone will definitely have a voice to say. And I think where you're seeing the allergen and the expectation. I mean, we had Sonny's on the podcast last week, a guy who's opening a first gluten-free fast food restaurant called Sonny's. He's called Sonny. But Richard Branson's backing it. And you can just see he's going to be a safe haven for people. Yeah. It's a McDonald's for people who are gluten-free. And, you know, and just that kind of behaviour. And that, right now, we're like, ooh. But I think in 5 years, we're like, of course, you should be doing that. You know, that should be not even a thought. So, yeah, very interesting. Right, last one is, and you can't say usefulness. Well, you can if you want. You have to describe loyalty in one word. What are you going to say? John, I'll start with you.
I'll go with fragile.
Oh, fragile.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say fickle.
Fickle, that's good.
I would say essential. I think there's a lot of data out there from a technology perspective. Customers can understand the frequency of visits and how to serve their customers better and how to get that average transaction spend up. And in the current climate, essential.
Essential. Yeah, it's right. I think we used to have a stat in college. Is 1.2 people. Customers used to come 1.2 times a year to see us, which we were like, what? And we see our regulars quite a lot. But actually, when you panned it all out, that was the reality. So our mission was always to get to 1.5, 1.6, which is trying to explain to the teams. They were like, what, you want half a person to come? I'm like, no, don't. So it was got a bit confusing. But you're right. I think the whole point of this conversation, actually, and the further conversations we'll have on the episodes, are around driving that frequency and trial back into our restaurants and bars and hotels or whatever we do, but doing it in a way that actually people want to use us again and become useful. So I've loved having you all here. It's been a pleasure. Gillian, you're staying with me all week, so I'm sorry about that. But John, if people want to get hold of you and kind of find out what you do and dig a bit deeper, how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, I'm probably on LinkedIn mostly, so John J. Sills on LinkedIn, or the company is thefoundation.com. Or you can find the book in all good bookshops. Or
just spot a guy in a pub on his own with a laptop.
Probably me, yeah.
Cheating on a pub quiz.
Ranting about loyalty, yeah.
And Ruth, B Corp Ruth, how do you get hold of you?
I'd say LinkedIn, but I never check my inbox. So
just come into the restaurant, right?
Email me at ruth@pizzapilgrims.co.uk.
There you go. Or go and have a pizza. Go and visit them. Look, thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely rest of your week. That was a Tech on Toast special and with Zonal, and we shall see you all soon.